If I could go from scoring a 570 on my GMAT diagnostic to getting into Booth, so can you. The first step is figuring out which MBA programs you want to apply to. I talked about your goals in my previous video, and they are very important here. Different schools have different reputations. For example, Booth is well known as a finance school, Kellogg as a marketing and consulting school. I would think about what you want to do post-MBA. To see where students from different schools go after graduation, I would go to their website and look for their employment report. Make sure that they send students to companies where you would like to work. I'll take Stern as an example. If I click on their latest report and go all the way down, they send a lot of people to MBB as well as to some well-known investment banks, as you can see here. After you look at this, make sure you create a short list of around 5 schools and make sure to include at least 3 types of schools. Rich schools, which would be your dream programs, match schools where you would meet most of the criteria, and the safety school is very important, not only so you ensure that you get into a program, but also because you are likely to get scholarship money from them and could leverage that to get more money if you get into one of your match or reach schools. Now you have your list, you can see what scores you should aim for in the GMAT or GRE to get in. So let's talk about those. For the GMAT, my recommendation is always to lock in for 3 months. I personally only went out once a week on Fridays so I could recover Saturday and then study all day Sunday. I would also study whenever I didn't have work during the week. If you add all this up, I would say I studied around 30 to 35 hours per week. Personally, I use Target Test Prep and I definitely recommend it. It is the only resource you need for math, and here's what worked for me. First, take a diagnostic on NBA.com to identify your baseline. For example, mine was 570 when I took it in the old exam. Then you're gonna sign up for Target Test Prep. You're gonna add your diagnostic score. You're gonna add your desired score. I'm just gonna click on the top range because I want to grind. And then you can add a test date if you have one. Then you're gonna go to study plan, and personally I prefer the schedule view. You just put the approximate hours you can dedicate per week, put whatever days you don't think you can study because maybe you have a vacation, and then it creates a schedule for you. I would play with the timing so you get a schedule that actually works for you. And then for the verbal section, I would complement Target Test Prep with the official verbal GMAT guide. It comes with a question bank and it's only around 20 bucks. I would try to do around 10 questions per day. You'll see at some point that everything will click and you will understand how most of the questions work. I would also sign up for a date and just pay the exam immediately. This is a trick that works for me because once I am committed and I paid money, I tend to follow through and actually study without putting it off. On test day, try to stay calm and pace yourself. Once you get your score, hopefully after the first time, it is time to apply. One of the biggest parts of the application are essays. Before you start with the essays, you should thoroughly research the schools you want to go to. Go to their school website and look at everything. The different classes they offer, who their top faculty is, what clubs interest you. Find out what they're looking for in candidates. Lucky for you, I recently made a video about my Booth experience, so that's a great start for Booth. After absolutely going through the entire website and watching my video, I would connect with 2 or 3 people from the school you want to go to that went to your undergrad or you know from somewhere else, because they're going to give you insights that you can write in the essay. Once you start writing the essays about the schools, be really specific. Instead of saying, I want to go to Booth for its great curriculum, you could write, Booth's flexible curriculum will allow me to learn more about entrepreneurship with courses like New Venture Strategy, in addition to give me practical experience with the Private Equity Lab course. After you research the school and have your first drafts, have friends and family review your essay and give you feedback. I would advise not to use ChatGPT that much because it does change the wording and it makes it kind of unauthentic. I would recommend ChatGPT just to brainstorm, to outline in the beginning, but keep the review as human as possible. After you're done with the essays, which takes pretty long, you need to figure out who's gonna write your recommendation letter. Best letters come from people you work with who know you really, really well. It's better to have a manager that knows you really well than have a partner that you've only exchanged emails with 5 times write your letter. Some schools only require 1 letter, other 2, so make sure you have at least 2 coworkers that are willing to write them. Once they agree, make sure to help them out. I personally created a packet where I included everything from why I was doing an MBA, some personal background, I included my resume, I included application deadlines, and I think this is the most important so they can keep track of all the deadlines, and you can add tips in the bottom for them. I also included all the feedback I had received to that point from them and other people, and the recommendation questions from each school. The recommenders will have to submit the answers to each school individually, so it is kind of a tedious process. However, most questions are the same, so all they have to do is change the name of the school. After this, you are ready to apply, and hopefully after applying, you'll get invited to interview. Most interviews are a casual conversation. Be ready for questions like, why do you want to do an MBA? Why do you want to come to our school? And situational questions such as, tell me about a time you led a team. Some schools, very little, like Wharton, have specific interview types where you work with a group of applicants to solve a case. I won't go over that type of interview, but there's a lot of good YouTube videos out there that will help you prepare. I also recommend you go to MBA Mission and check out their interview guides. They have for a lot of schools with an overview of where your interview will be, who will interview you, some testimonials, and lastly, some questions for you to practice. If you want tips to do well at the booth interview, I made a pretty good video about it that you can check it out here. Big picture for all the interviews, I would say 3 things. Do a lot of mock interviews with your friends. Treat the interview as a conversation, so don't just memorize answers. At the end of the day, it's business school, so you're expected to be social and not just a robot. And ask the interviewer questions and be interested in them. The more enjoyable the conversation, the better. Honestly, I thought this would be the hardest part of the application, but it ended up being not bad at all. The only thing is to try not to get nervous, which is easier said than done, and obviously practice. Finally, some bonus tips. Make sure you go to events that the schools plan. This is very important for some schools. They actually keep track of what events you go to. Also, don't get too down after a rejection. I remember my first rejection, it was actually Harvard, and I was down bad for 2 hours, which is not the point. I promise you, wherever you end up, you will be extremely happy and successful. Really can't go wrong in this process. Third, there's a lot of useful organizations like MLT Prep, Forte, and many others that help underrepresented individuals. They're great because they are cheaper than external consultants and they help you review your essays, and you also get to meet people that are going through the same process and that can help you. I hope this helps you feel more confident as you start your MBA application journey. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you found this helpful, click that like button and share with a friend who's starting their MBA journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, and we'll see you next week. Peace.